Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go, why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU Sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
welcome to a live edition of the BCSN Sports Wrap.
I caught that.
I'm Brian Fulford. That's A.D. Drew.
I caught that. I caught that. I don't know if anybody else caught it, but I caught it.
What show am I doing?
Oh, what show am I on? Oh, my God.
Damn you, Drew.
Oh, for the ONG.
Drew is you're the guy that you're the guy when somebody would trip on the yard from 30 feet out. You would be like yelling across the yard, like, "Yo, I saw that, bro! I saw
it." I did tell you about the booger you got hanging out your nose while I'm doing it.
Damn it, Drew! Welcome to another live show of the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. here again. Drew, how you doing tonight, man? How you doing today?
I'm one tired puppy.
Yeah.
I'm one tired puppy. Man.
What are you tired from, man? What are you doing out there in these streets?
It ain't these streets, man. It's this 9 to 5. It's this 9 to 5 that it turned into a 9 to 9. You know what I'm saying, my brother?
Yeah, definitely.
And 9 to 9 with short hours on some days.
I hear you. Yeah, man. Well, you know, I don't. I'll take your busy weekend. I'll take my actually non-busy weekend and trade it off. You know, I've had I think 2 consecutive. Nah, last weekend was pretty busy because that was the spring game, so that was a lot of driving on the body. So, yeah, I'll take it. But no, you know, sometimes I miss being busy, especially on down days, because I think. I'll be honest. Down days are days where I'm trying not to spend money. Really? Down goes the poster.
Down goes Frazier.
We're taking. If you had the over on the number of times Drew's poster was gonna fall, you're halfway home because the line was set at 1.5. So I'm just gonna tell you that you're halfway there. You don't have to cut it off. Go ahead, leave it up. Wait till the commercial break. Come on, man. Don't. See, now you're going to – it's bad enough I'm the one in the producer chair today, and then you go and cut your video off so that you can reset. You can reset later, Drew. But anyway, want to thank everybody for checking in, jumping in early on the Sports Wrap. A little bit different than what we normally do, so we're trying things. Walter Harley. First one in the building today, wishing us, hoping we have a good show, a great show already. I mean, matter of fact, Walter said this will be a great show. So I'm already nervous because Walter has set the bar high and Drew's poster has fallen down. Drew has gone, you know, video dark already. So, you know, I don't know. We're starting under the table today, trying to make our way up. But if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, I want you to hit the thumbs up button wherever you are. Go ahead and hit the share button. Tell a friend. Follow us. Make sure you're following the Black College Sports Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1, the number 1. You can also download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app on the Google Play and Apple App Store. Just search MyJBN and MyBCSN1 as well. Coming up at the bottom of hour number 1, Zach McKinnell from the Blue Bloods. I'm trying to make sure I say that, but it can be a mouthful sometimes. BlueBloodsCFB.com. The BlueBloodsCFB.com. Zach, I think I just saw was at Grambling's spring day. So all the spring games are in the book, I believe. I don't think anybody's got it because next week usually is graduation, either next weekend or the weekend after. So
correct.
All the spring games are done. So we'll be, we'll do our best to kind of pare away as much info as we can from Zach. Next week, though, we are working on an all-inclusive show. So next weekend will probably be the spring football recap, where I think, I've already reached out to Jamie Walker, BJ Jones, Mo Carter. I know, Drew, you're kind of working through some things to see whether you're going to make that. But we're going to try to put together a comprehensive show and just really take a look at all of the teams and all of the action and kind of figure out who's where, because that can be a little challenging. I think some schools have done a really good job of disseminating information, putting information out. Other schools being super secretive. Again, if you are someone who knows publicly when the CIAA schools have had their spring days, that's the one thing that, as I've seen media reports and media agencies reporting, that's the conference that's been the darkest amongst total numbers, put it like that. So we'll take a look at that. Coming up this week, we've got the draft. The NFL draft is on Thursday for round 1. Round 2 and 3 is on Friday. Round 4, 5, 6, and 7 is on Saturday. And that's the day, I think Saturday, possibly Friday, but more like Saturday is the day when we most scouts or people who are in this line think HBCU players and maybe FCS players will start coming off the board. Drew, did you happen to catch Wednesday's show with Malik Obi?
I caught part of it. I hadn't watched the entire show, but I did catch part of it.
Yeah, so Malik, draft HBCUplayers.com, came on the ONG Strike Zone on Wednesday. And, of course, we talked about Isaiah Land, Xavier Smith, the FAMU guys. But we just talked about HBCU guys in general. I put the line out there to him, Drew, 4.5. And he actually predicted over. He thought
right.
over. I know you were on the under. You're on the under, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, you're on the under. I tend to think optimistically, so I think over as well. Just because names such as Mark Evans, offensive lineman from UAPB, Xavier Land, Aubrey Miller. As much as I want to say Xavier Smith, I don't know. That could be a wild card. But I think there's also some other names, some guys who came, names that possibly escape my mind right at the moment, of who could possibly end up going in the draft. So I'm kind of curious to hear what Zach thinks. So we'll talk to him about the draft a little bit later in the show as well. And kind of get a feel for how many guys go. But and then we've already seen some guys drafted in the XFL and the USFL draft. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But let's start with some men's volleyball action, because obviously the Black College Sports Network, very fortunate to be broadcast partners with the SIAC and bring that to the airwaves. 6 teams participated in this tournament, and it started on Thursday, where essentially every team played. Of course, the 1 seed was Edward Waters. The 2 seed was Central State. They kind of played it down where the bottom 4 teams had to play to get to the semifinals against the 1 and 2 seed. And then the winner of the semifinals advanced to the championship on Friday. Friday ended up being Edward Waters versus Central State. Central State was the defending champions of the inaugural tournament, and they beat Edward Waters last year.
Who were the runners-up last year? So they just flip-flopped.
You don't let me finish. Yes, that's what I was getting to. I was obviously, bad. Yeah. Anyway, but
my bad.
That's all right.
You gotta put that on the script.
I was anyway. Drew, you called it. Yes, Edward Waters ended up winning the championship, sort of payback. You had a chance to call the games on Friday.
Thursday. I called
Thursday. Thank you. Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. You called the games, the 4 games on Thursday. And then the championship was on Friday. Give me your takeaway and your thoughts from the tournament and whatever else, in terms of Edward Waters winning.
Number one, when you look at it, a lot of these people who were playing volleyball, well, I won't say a lot. It was interesting that you had 6 institutions who all started at the same time playing men's volleyball. And all 6 of them took a little bit of a different approach as far as how they wanted to build their program. Some people went out and actively recruited male volleyball players. Some people went out and just kind of got athletes who are already on campus and have kind of mixed and matched in between. This was the end of a 3-year grant cycle from, I believe, USA Volleyball and maybe another partner that funded the startup for these volleyball programs. And if you happen to listen to the first set of the championship match, there was a very interesting conversation, but we'll get back to that in a minute. On the court, Brian, it was very interesting to see the play. And if you've ever watched women play volleyball, there was a different skill set between the women and the men's game. I was expecting more over the net play in the men's game than I would see in the women's game. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of high flyers. Although you saw some big hits, you saw also a lot of big misses. So if you're just comparing women to men just based on that small sample size, I would say the women's game, the big hitters on the women's game were a lot more efficient and accurate in their kill shots. Same thing with the liberos, and those are the defensive players, for those who are not versed in volleyball lingo, who were able to get to a lot. I've seen a lot more female liberos get to a lot more balls than I saw on the male side. So overall, I mean, it was a great game, great competitive game. No one got blown out. Every game was competitive, but that doggone Emma Waters team is something special. And the conference play of the year did not come from either one of those two teams. Came from the third place finisher, that being Benedict. So overall, I enjoyed my time. I enjoyed the hospitality of the people there at Fort Valley State University. Got the chance to chat with a friend of the show, frequent guest on the Carlos Brown show, Wheeler Brown. His office was literally 30 feet from our broadcast location, literally from our broadcast location. So yeah, just I really enjoyed the atmosphere, and it was something different. First time I ever saw men's volleyball at any level, honestly, outside of what we do in PE class. First time I saw competitive men's volleyball. So I enjoyed myself.
Just to kind of answer a quick question there, which HBCUs have men's volleyball?
Just 6 of them. All of them in the SIAC.
Yeah. Go through. I mean, obviously we have Fort Valley State, who was the host.
Yeah. Well, I'll go through them in reverse order.
In reverse order. There we go. Yeah.
All right. The number 6 seed was the Morehouse Maroon Tigers. The number 5 seed was, oh my God, how did I forget who the number 5 was? Who did Fort Valley beat? Because Fort Valley was the number 4, Kentucky State. The number 5 seed was Kentucky State. The number 4 seed was Fort Valley. The number 3 seed was Benedict. The number 2 seed was Central State. And the number 1 seed was Edward Waters. And Central State actually had a good non-conference record, had a better non-conference record than Edward Waters did, but Edward Waters was able to win when it counted in conference. And Central State probably had a bigger front line When I say bigger, I would love to have some of those guys when I was coaching basketball. How much size Central State had on their front line. So it was very interesting. And there were also two different type of cultures. Some of those teams, Edward Waters and Central State specifically, built their teams with foreign players. Over half of their roster were non-Americans.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Brazil, I saw Caribbean, I saw Jamaican, I saw somebody, I want to say it was Australia on somebody's roster. A couple of other European countries. Did I see an African country? I may have even seen a country from the continent of Africa or between those 6 rosters. So every roster had at least one non-American. Rosters had non-African Americans on them, although the majority of the rosters were, and I won't say African Americans, we'll say people of color is probably a better way of putting it, because there were people of color who were not African Americans on some of these rosters, if everybody understands what I'm saying.
The any African Americans are probably minimal in terms of the smaller demographic. Would that be a fair assessment in terms of?
Depends on which school.
Okay.
It depends on the school. For Edward Waters and Central State, yes. Right. For Benedict, they had more African American than non-African Americans. Same thing with Kentucky State. Kentucky State had more African Americans than non-African Americans.
Yeah. And so I think one of the things, and just to kind of help Lynn out there, Lynn Spence, who asked, there's your, if you look at that bracket again, you had Morehouse and Benedict in the opening round, Benedict College. You had Fort Valley State and Kentucky State. And then you had Edward Waters, who was the 1 seed, and Central State, who was the 2 seed. And so everywhere from Jacksonville to Ohio, to Kentucky, to Georgia, to South Carolina, that half of the SIAC. Now, Drew, I think what's interesting is when I think this was what part of that conversation was, if I recall, during the first set of the championship game. What will the future of this tournament or of this, will this look like? Because there's only one division. There's no at Division One, there's no one division. I mean, there's no one AA/FCS. There's no Division Two. Well, there is Division Two.
Not for men's volleyball.
Not for men's volleyball. Yeah. So
everybody is the same. We're
right.
Morehouse is on the same level as a UCLA
and
or
Stanford.
Pepperdine or Stanford or Hawaii. Those blue blood volleyball programs.
Right. So what that means is, if USA Volleyball is making the effort to, what's the word? Increase the involvement or the diversity of the sport. Well, starting at the HBCU level is the logical place to go. Now, the question is, the dollars and cents of doing this, can other schools make this profitable? Can other schools get behind this? And I think a big challenge, and you follow me here where I'm going with this, Drew. If you want more schools to do this, I think one of the challenges starts with Title IX. And if I recall from a previous conversation we had about adding sports, your number of sports has to be reflective of the enrollment of your university. Well, what is it we know about most HBCUs? I'm going to use our beloved university.
Female heavy.
It's female heavy, almost like a 70% to 30% female-male ratio. So that being said, where do most of your sports end up having to fall from? Female sports. Because why? football is so heavy and the numbers in football are so high, right? So that creates this thing where now you say, okay, if we add men's volleyball, well, what other women's sport can we add or create to kind of balance out things? If I'm understanding that correctly.
Got the answer for that when we come back to it. We'll continue on this volleyball discussion. I'll put a pin in that, my answer for right now.
Where are we going? You got somewhere to go? What?
No, we're gonna finish this. We're gonna finish this portion of the discussion. That's why I say we're gonna put a pin in that. My answer.
Okay. Well, I don't understand. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead with the rest of your thoughts. Then I don't know.
Finish your thought. But you asked the question: what other sports could we add for female?
Well, I don't know. I'm just asking a question. I mean, okay. I got somebody says women's rugby. I mean, I don't know what else is there. What do you have to add? What do you have to add?
You don't laugh when I say this.
I'm listening. I'm not gonna laugh at anything these days.
Flag football, women's flag football.
No, the popularity, yes. Okay.
Especially down in our region in Georgia and Florida, where we live at, Brian, it is a growing. And in Alabama, they just added in Alabama. It's now sanctioned by, I know, those 3 high school associations. I'm not sure outside of those 3 what other high school associations sanctioned it. But these young women are looking to continue their education and play a sport. Flag football is a very inexpensive sport budget-wise for any university. Helps you with that Title IX compliance issue. And it's an emerging sport on the NAIA level, Brian. There is one NAIA who currently plays flag football, that being Florida Memorial, and they participate. There's actually one conference who sponsors it, and that is the Sun Conference. All the other flag football programs are independent throughout the nation. There are approximately 20 or so NAIAs playing flag football right now. And if I recall, Florida Memorial was one of the first institutions, period, who signed up for flag football, and it is in its 3rd year as an emerging sport in NAIA. And that's what will have to happen with NCAA. It would have to become an emerging sport, and then you have to get the numbers up to a certain level before you're able to get it to a championship sport. But getting back to the dollars and cents of it, Brian, you almost got any HBCU already has just about everything they need. All you gotta do is go out and buy some flags. And NCAA, they make you wear some type of guard on your head. I've seen some girls who wear the helmets, the soft helmets that you put on a football helmet during spring games and practice and everything. And I've seen them with the ones that just go around looking like a headband. Yeah. Most of them wear one of those 2 styles. Other than that, you've got fields.
Yeah, all day.
If you play football, you have a field. You
have a practice field. You got that as well.
If you have soccer, if you have a separate soccer facility, you have a field. So you don't have to invest in another field.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah, and so you don't have to invest in down markers, because the only thing you need is the 1, 2, 3, and 4, because they don't play by yardage. You don't have to invest in the pylons.
Everything you need is right there in the house.
Everything else that you need, but the players is there.
Yeah.
And the players and the coach. All you need is personnel. Equipment wise, it is very, there is a minimal, event. Uniforms. You have to get flags and uniforms, Brian.
Yeah. Which, look, you can, that's not hard to get.
That's not hard to get. Honestly, Brian, you can start a flag football program for $2,500.
Right.
$2,500 to $5,000 plus whatever you go pay your coach.
Nice.
and upgrade their scholarships.
Let's put a pin on the end of this segment with as we're concluding here before we run to a break. I would just say this: congratulations to Edward Waters, because if you look at what they have done over the past 12 months, not only the fact that they have successfully won a baseball title. They've won a now volleyball title. They just clinched a softball division title. Could be on their way to winning a softball title. There's on the Division II level, they're making strides and making their name well known in the Division II, and only have been in Division II now for, is this the second season or
This is their first full season in Division II.
Gotcha.
But I want to get this out before we go to break on Edward Waters, Brian. That's what happened when your institution has a president who gives a damn about athletics. The number one fan for Edward Waters Athletics in Duval, Jacksonville, Florida, is the president, Dr. A. Zachary Faison. That's what every HBCU president should aspire to be like. And people could like him, but very few and far between.
I just saw a memo. What's the sport they're going to be adding in 2023 and next season? Tennis. That's right. Tennis.
Yeah, they're building tennis courts. Now, I don't know if it's men's, women, or both, but I do know they're adding.
I think it was women's.
Yes.
I may be off, but I think it was women's tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. Hey, let's do this. Let's get ready to step aside, take a short break. Coming up, Zach McKinnell, the Blue Bloods, CFB.com. We're going to break down a lot of happenings from the spring football season. So get your questions ready. We'll try to go through. We got a lot of stuff to try to cover with Zach while we got him. So you hang in there for a short little sidestep. This commercial break. We'll come back. We'll get into the conversation with Zach McKinnell on the other side. You're watching a BCSN Sports Wrap. Be back in just a moment.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU Sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com. All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. here. Pleasure to be joined by Zach McKinnell, the Blue Bloods. The BlueBloodsCFB.com is where you can find Zach. Also doing some writing this year for Hero Sports. Zach, welcome to the Sports Wrap. How you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys having me, man. It's an honor, so I definitely appreciate the invite.
Yeah, man. Hey, you're out there grinding. You're the guy that's covering more ground, boots to the ground. I love it. You just started doing some writing this past year, I guess, or this calendar year for Hero. What possessed you to add one more thing to the plate, man?
Well, with me not having really a sports media background, you gotta put your hat in as many places as you can. So started the web, the Blue Bloods CFB. Well, we just rebranded. It used to be the bluebloodspod.com, but we went to a CFB just to kind of increase the visibility and also, say like kind of separate ourselves of just being just a podcast because we do so much more than that. So I've been writing there, Hero Sports, also do some writing for USA Today Sports now. So I like staying busy, man. I don't like a lot of downtime. So as much as I can, do, especially with FCS football, I love it.
Man, Drew, I'm trying to walk away from everything and be like Zach. I can't force myself to do it.
You can't get a job because Zach got all the doggone jobs. That's what the problem is.
I gotta stay in
undercover
teaching,
Jamaican.
Man. I gotta stay. You got some Jamaican in you there, Zach. It's all good, man. Hey, well, definitely, man. I know you've added some great content into the space, and so I know we got a lot. You were just in Grambling. I saw the videos. I was checking out the videos. You're down in Grambling State. So I mean, we're going to talk about the spring football scene, but before we kind of get into that, I thought we'd start kind of with the draft stuff because the draft is coming up this upcoming Thursday. I think round 1 is on Thursday, 2 and 3 Friday. And then you've got the day in which most people feel FCS and HBCU players would get drafted will be Saturday with rounds 4 through 7. Give me an idea of some names that you think are most likely to get drafted from the people that you talk to, whether it be scouts, coaches, other players. Who are the names that you think will get drafted this upcoming weekend?
I think all the talk about HBCU prospects being drafted has to start with Mark Evans. Mark Evans is second out of UAPB offensive tackle. This guy, I believe he's been all swag every single year that he has started at UAPB. This guy's a first-team FCS All-American this past year, was one of the highest graded offensive linemen in FCS football. His combine, I won't lie, was not great. But I still think the film doesn't lie. The production at the college level doesn't lie. I would expect him to go somewhere between the 4th and 6th rounds. So I think it starts with him. I think you also got to put Isaiah Land in that category. Had a pretty great offseason. The combine was pretty solid. He has so much potential. It's just, where is he going to project at the next level? Is he going to be able to add that weight and be a bona fide edge rusher at the next level? Or is he going to have to make that move to linebacker full time? I feel like that's kind of put his draft stock somewhat in flux, but I would imagine before the end of the draft, you're going to hear Isaiah Land's name come off the board. Then you go to Aubrey Miller from Jackson State as well at linebacker. I think Aubrey's Senior Bowl probably helped him more than any other single moment this offseason for HBCU prospects. He became the leader of that room that was filled with talent led by D. Winters, who just helped TCU get to the national championship and had an all-time performance in that semifinal game against Michigan. Then I look at going outside the swag. I think you look at Jadakiss Bonds from Hampton at wide receiver as a guy who, when you need to check off physical traits, Jadakiss Bonds has everything you want in a wide receiver: the speed, the height, the weight, the production, the hands, the route running. I think he's probably the most complete wide receiver in this draft class looking across the board. So I think those are probably your top 4 guys. But then you got the honorable mentions and or possibly the guys who could push that number any higher. You look at the Isaiah Boldens, the Kamari Everetts, the Xavier Smiths, the Dejon Nugget Warrens. But I would say Bonds, Miller, Land, and Evans are probably those top 4 prospects.
Let me give you 2 receivers' names that it's funny you brought up Jadakiss Bonds because I think I saw his name very early back in February, but really over the last couple months, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about him. But how about Shaq Davis from South Carolina State. And then, of course, Xavier Smith has gotten a lot of the attention over the last couple months. What are your thoughts on those two guys?
Xavier is someone who I think if you look at someone who's earned their draft status, like if Xavier was 2 inches taller, I don't know if we're having this conversation. I think we're talking third or fourth round conversation. But because of his size, there's going to be people who discredit him. But Bryan, I know you've seen him work in person. Same for you, Drew. This guy is a bona fide superstar in the right system. Now, could he be a wide receiver one on the outside? Probably not because of his size. But if you surround him with some talent, put him in the slot, he's an issue. He's a guy who can be a high volume guy, explosive in the open field. And his Legacy Bowl performance, I was there all week. I watched every practice in person. He was embarrassing people in one-on-ones, and it wasn't even close. And I got to talk to his agent. Listen, he might have the best agent in the game. She is amazing. Shout out to her. But I have heard he's got a lot of interest, but I feel like because of his size, we're still talking if someone takes a chance, is going to be probably 6th, 7th round.
Yeah, why? Yeah, we understand it. I always look at those comparisons. I mean, it's the same thing I felt about help me out. The young man from out of Tennessee State, Chris. A couple years ago. It was like the HBCU Player of the Year. And I looked at his comps compared to Tyreek Hill. And, bro, he was literally mirror for mirror guy, but, you went to Tennessee State. I mean, where did Tyreek Hill go?
Well, yeah, because I think he had to transfer to like West Alabama or something like that because of what happened at Oklahoma State, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So anyway, go ahead, Drew.
Yeah. All right, Zach. You mentioned some of these players who are going to possibly be late day 3, 6, 7th round. And we always have to ask the question, especially for our HBCU guys, is it better to be a late 6th or 7th round pick, or is it better to be a UDFA? As far as because when you're UDFA, you kind of get to pick the team that you feel fits you versus the team that they think you may fit them.
Okay, we'll take it on two sides. Personally, as the player, it's absolutely better to be an undrafted free agent. Just like Marquise Bell, he wound up at a perfect place for him, a great organization where he's been competing for playing time. Works out perfectly. But on the flip side, for the HBCU diaspora perception, FCS perception, it's better for the guys that come after him to be drafted, because now that number, when you look back on the year, you don't necessarily look on where they went, but it's like, hey, in 2023, we had 9 HBCU guys drafted, 30 FCS guys drafted. That looks a whole lot better than we had 20 FCS guys drafted and 3 HBCU guys. The conversation switches, but for the individual player, it's absolutely better to be able to pick where you're going to go, negotiate your contract, and pick the best opportunity where you feel like you have a better chance at making that roster.
All right. Now my next question, I don't know if you know, but I do write for D2football.com. I cover the SIAC for D2football.com. So I'm going to ask you, are there any D2 players that you think may have an opportunity, probably not to get drafted, but to get signed as a UDFA? And that's undrafted free agent for those who don't understand the lingo.
Yeah, Andrew Farmer from Lane. That kid's just built different. I mean, that's not a D2 kid. I saw him go up against Drake Centers, Tony Gray at the HBCU Legacy Bowl. He is built like a pro prospect. I don't know how that kid wound up at Lane. I don't remember really his recruitment, but there's no way you could tell me that kid's ceiling was Division II football. He is 6'6", fully 6'6", and weighs every bit of that 260, 250 that they have him listed as. He has the speed. He has the length. I think Andrew Farmer is probably one of your top D2 prospects, but I cannot wait. I know he's small. When Jada Byers officially enters the draft, whenever I think it's next year.
Next year, it'll be his 3rd year.
We're going to have a conversation, because that kid is special. And I mean, that kid is an elite talent. And so I think Andrew Farmer this year, but I cannot wait to see Jada Byers finally enter the NFL draft.
Yeah,
I'm glad Jada Byers is actually going back to Virginia Union, because I without even saying, that there were solicitations out there from all over the place. If not, there should have been, just out of respect, right? But I'm glad that he's at Virginia Union for another year. Go ahead, Drew. You were going to finish up with another question or thought there.
No, I was going to say the same thing. I think Dr. Parker, if you know the story of Jada Byers, I've talked to Dr. Parker many a times on it, it's just amazing that this kid is even playing football considering his senior year of high school, because he believe he had an injury. I think he blew his knee out, if I remember right, his senior year of high school. And Union was about the only person who was giving this kid a chance, and he has rewarded Union with with 2 solid years of performances.
True. What about before we move off of the draft talk? I know we're in the season where the XFL is coming to an end. The USFL is starting. I think this weekend was week 2, but USFL already had their draft, and they actually made a significant impact for HBCU players. I think I read 8 guys from the SWAC alone were drafted. What do you think about the USFL XFL combination being that alternative? What are guys saying out there? I mean, obviously I know guys they want to fulfill that dream with the NFL, but how's the process going to work for guys who may not get the NFL shot, but hey, here's another league where you can go put some film on tape against professionals and being coached by professionals, guys who have either played in a league or coached in a league?
I think it depends. Like you said, it depends on the guy you ask or the prospect you ask. Because there's some guys who are just dead set. It's NFL, they're bust.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, other guys, I think it's a great opportunity. Listen, I think if you went back and asked the FCS HBCU guys who didn't make the NFL if they wish they had that opportunity, all of them would sign up for it today if they could go back. And so I think a lot of guys have to open their minds. Like, it might not be NFL money, but guess what? If you go look at the weekly salary, 95% of America is signing up for that right now.
Oh, true.
It's not like you're struggling to survive. I mean, I think the USFL or XFL, one of them was like $5,000 a week. That's solid money. And what I think, I talked to a scout, was at the Jackson Valley Alcorn Mississippi Pro Day, and they were telling me that the best thing for some of these borderline guys to do moving forward, since the XFL and USFL are in the spring, if you're a guy who doesn't know if they're going to get drafted, go ahead and sign if you have an opportunity with the USFL or XFL, because nothing you do at the combine, a camp, an interview is going to show that you belong to the NFL than going to another league and balling out on the professional level, winning MVP, being rookie of the year, being one of the statistical leaders, and then you get a rookie minicamp invite, the same thing you would have gotten if you would have just sat there training for the combine or whatever you're doing right now. So I think a lot of guys might have played it wrong because it's new. I get it. But I think moving forward, if you're a guy who's projected undrafted free agent, I'm going to go get paid for 3-4 months, put on real film, and then we're going to have a conversation of, can I go to this rookie mini camp? Can I go to this? Can I at least attend the fall camp for some of these NFL franchises? I think that's the move. But I think it's wonderful to see, because how many names could both, because I mean, you guys have been around this a lot longer than me. How many guys can you name from the 90s, early 2000s that's a guy who could have played professionally, but he never got the chance?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. The Cole Kellys, the Eric Berriers, the Akil Glasses, all these guys are storied FCS prospects and just never got a shot at the NFL, but now they get a shot to go play in the XFL, USFL. So I love the opportunity. I'm just hoping more guys become open-minded to it.
Yeah, and those guys are out there getting looks on major networks. I mean, I was just here watching it on Fox Sports and ESPN and USA. I mean, I don't even know what channel the CFL games come on. So, I mean, it's like, it used to be that's where you go to, and guys would go away, so to speak. Now you're getting a chance to be seen in the States on major networks. So, yeah, I think it will change the thinking up a little bit. All right, let's go over to some spring game reviews while we got you. Let's start with Grambling. I mean, you were right there at Grambling. I know Coach Hugh, love him. I just love the what are they calling the offense now? The G5.
The G5 offense.
Oh, holy cow! What was your takeaway? Give me some takeaways from what you saw at Grambling State yesterday.
I did see a large step forward from most of the quarterbacks. I think even Amani Gilmore, who's probably going to be a third string guy, took a big step forward. And just in terms of his ability to put the ball in places that I didn't see last year, he really struggled last year in terms of his passing efficiency. Miles Crawley is everything that I think all three of us know he can be. We saw the flashes at Alabama State. This offense is going to let him unleash his potential. And Julian Calvez was a true freshman last year. He took a step forward too. I would say Crawley's 1A. Julian's 1B, and then Gilmore's probably going to be the third guy, with Quintarius Hawkins falling somewhere in that mix. But what my biggest takeaway from Grambling is the athletes and the potential of that offense is through the roof. They have 3 or 4 running backs that can get it done. Lyndon Rash is going to be one of the best receivers in FCS football, and he showed that yesterday. I think he had 2 touchdowns. And then on top of that, Sundiata Anderson comes back. And I think with the departure of Isaiah Land, with the departure of some of the top edge rushers, you're looking at him and probably Niles Gaddy as the top 2 guys coming back at that edge position. They have a lot of talent. Secondary-wise, they have a lot of young guys. I think they need to work on their communication. There were a few times where they were trying to pass people off in coverage, and it was just a coverage bust because they didn't know where they needed to be. So I think that's going to come along with that really aggressive Cedric Thornton defense. But Tony Hull being hired as a new co-offensive coordinator, I think, in my opinion, outside of head coaching hires, was probably the single biggest hire in the SWAC this offseason. He's going to be that good. He's a storied Louisiana coach. I think he had the Gatorade State Player of the Year in 2014, has been around the group of 5 schools. He was the one that tabbed it in my interview as a G5 offense, because he said, we're going to go fast, we're going to throw the football. And what I saw is they opened things up vertically. Last year, when you look at Grambling, they did not push the football down the field very well. Yesterday, the first play of the game, Julian Chavez hit a fly route for a touchdown on the first play. Miles Crawley comes back on the second play, hits a 70-yarder. They're not afraid to push the football down the field. So I think we're going to see this Grambling State offense take a huge step forward under Tony Hull.
Is he going to take over all the play calling duties from Hugh?
So yeah, last year, Hugh and was it John Simon were kind of the dual play callers. So they're co-offensive coordinators, but Tony Hull is calling all the plays.
Okay. Go ahead, Drew. Jump in there.
All right, Zach. I don't know if you pay attention to our show, but one thing I've always said about spring football is it's a little bit of fool's gold in it. You're playing yourself. You're supposed to look good. But given everything that you've seen and that you've covered with spring football, who out there is really fool's gold and come to fall has the most questions for you right now going into the fall?
I think I'll start with Southern. I have a lot of questions about that team. When you look at the overall talent that they lost, from Jason Dumas to Corian Harris to the quarterback questions, offensive line losses, they lost a lot of good offensive linemen. They lost their defensive line coach, who was one of the top up-and-comers in the SWAC. And then Dooley's just questionable decision-making in terms of picking a quarterback. They got, who I think is the best quarterback is a true freshman they have coming in. I don't even think he's on campus yet. So that's still a huge question mark. And when I look at the West, the parity in that division is unmatched. Because I've been saying on my show, you can make a strong case without anybody questioning you that 5 teams could win that division. If I came on the show and said Alcorn, Grambling State, Prairie View, Texas Southern, or Southern won that division, everyone would be like, yeah, I could probably see it. Possibly. Is that 5 teams because they're all look-alike, or are they 5 good teams? I'm like, what how do you evaluate that?
Or is it competitive garbage?
Yeah, that's what we got to figure out, because I think UAPB is the only team I don't see them, putting anything up. I think I got a lot of questions about Alabama A&M too, especially at quarterback, because Quincy Casey didn't practice. Xavier Langford looked like he took a step forward, but man, it's just was that, did that defense look that good because they are that good, or because the offense was that bad? That's my biggest question mark, because they can run the football. They ran the football well last year. But man, if you don't have a passing game in the SWAC and you're one dimensional, the front sevens in the SWAC are too good for you to be that bad passing the football. And an honorable mention would be South Carolina State for me. I trust Buddy Pugh. I get it. He's a legend. But that last season was bad. When you get beat 41 to, I think, 14 by Morgan State, things have taken a turn for the worst. And I heard the quarterback position looks better, but I refuse to believe Corey Fields went from a guy who struggled all last season to the next coming of the guy who's going to win MEAC Offensive Player of the Year. And that's what I've been hearing, and I just can't buy it. And they lost a lot of talent in the secondary as well. So South Carolina State would be my honorable mention there.
Look, they lost Shaq Davis. That's enough right there.
Exactly. That was their whole offense.
Exactly.
They still have. Hold on. South Carolina State still has. Was it BJ? Is it BJ?
He transferred.
Okay. See, that's all right.
Shooting bad in Orangeburg. All right, Zach. I want to take you off the field for a moment, but I'm still gonna relate this back to football, though. You know, recently the NCAA passed new transfer portal legislation. Give me your opinions on the new little bit more restrictive rules on the transfer portal, and how do you think it's going to affect football specifically? How do you think it's going to affect HBCU football?
I think it was needed. I love player movement and player freedom and taking the players' careers in their own hands, but at the same time, we do have to remember that, man, at 18. I know I can speak for myself personally. I was not ready to make career-altering decisions repeatedly at 18. I think the transfer portal, NIL, all that stuff's great, but you had to have some sort of guardrails. What happened with the NCAA is, and I've said this, I'm not a fan of the NCAA at all. I cannot stand it. I think college football has to pull away from the NCAA if possible. But they were late to the game in terms of allowing the transfer portal and NIL to happen. And so what happened is they said, fine, this is what you want. We're just going to unleash it. We're not going to spend any time creating legislature, any rules, any way to monitor this. We're just going to show y'all what happens when we just open the floodgates. We're going to let y'all drown, and then we're going to come and save you guys because we just want to prove that we were right. That's what happened, in my opinion. I think they just wanted to prove they were right, so they just let all this chaos happen. But at the end of the day, you should be allowed one free transfer. No one's going to argue this. But the days of I'm a 6-year senior and I'm playing for my 4th university, that at that point you're talking about there's no way this student athlete is on the way to a degree. It can't have that. There's no chance of that happening. So I like the rule where graduate transfers can transfer again if they want. A free transfer, you did what you needed to in the classroom, you graduated, go ahead, do what you need to do. And at that time, you're probably 24, more equipped to make that career-altering decision. But you get one free transfer, you need to pick a right place. And I think what it does is it forces the student athletes to get the proper advice, to really take their future into account and make that right decision. You've had 2 shots now to be recruited. If you can't make the right choice in 2 choices, then it might not be the school not being the right fit. Maybe you're just not cut out for this game. And with NIL, it's become a real business now. So if you're not performing, if you're bouncing around, you can't be dependable. At the end of the day, that kind of falls on your shoulders. And so what you're seeing now is these student athletes aren't student athletes. They're really employees now.
Zach, I know I don't want to hold you because I know you got to get out of here. I'm gonna leave you with 2 one-word. I want you 1-word answers to these next 2 questions. All right, so we can get you out of here. So, top team in the fall: North Carolina Central or Florida A&M?
North Carolina Central.
That's fair. Jackson State with TC Taylor, over or under 6 wins this year?
Oh, over. Easily over.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Zach, let them know where they can find you.
The Blue Bloods, CFB.com. You can find our YouTube channel, The Blue Bloods, on all podcast streaming platforms and on social media at the __ Blue Bloods. I appreciate you guys having me so much.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, appreciate your time, Zach. Again, you guys make sure you hit Zach up and let him know you appreciate his time tonight. And I know we can talk for hours, but maybe we'll definitely try to get you on here in the summertime as we get a little bit closer to the start of the season. All right.
Anytime, man. Just let me know, and I'll always be happy to come on.
Appreciate
you, my brother.
Appreciate you. All right. Hey, we're going to take a break, come back with more on the other side. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
When you're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. here. Shout out to Zach McKinnell, the Blue Bloods, CFB.com for joining us in the last segment. Drew, a couple of things just coming out of, and talking with Zach. And again, just to give everybody a heads up, next week's show, we're going to try to do an all-encompassing spring football review show. But excuse me, I hit the call button. I think I should do it instead of just talking about it, right? I am interested in Central. We've talked about FAMU, talked about Jackson State. I think schools like Grambling, Tennessee State really offer, and you know what? I'm going to throw North Carolina A&T in the mix as well. Because I think from the standpoint of when I think about A&T was a game away from winning the Big South and advancing to the playoffs. They kind of blew it. Didn't come to play in that last game. Now they got a new coach. I know they lost their top running back. Tennessee State comes in with a new quarterback, I believe. Still with some solid skill position guys. So and then they start the season against Notre Dame. I mean, that in itself is an interesting season opener. Who is it who goes out to UCLA?
Is it? No, Alabama State went out there last year. Somebody goes out there again this year? I know Alabama State went last year.
Yeah, somebody's going out to UCLA this year. Off the top of my head, it escapes me.
Can't remember.
What part of me thinks it's Central. I don't know. It might be North Carolina Central. If anybody, you guys in the chats know just off the top of your head. But I think coming out, there's so many interesting questions that there are some teams who really look great and who look like they've got everything together, and maybe just have one or two question marks. And then there's teams like, I'm interested, in the fact that, as Zach said, Southern, with so many questions that they have to answer. I think the challenging thing for Grambling State is Hugh Jackson as a head coach is, in 3 full seasons, maybe 4, 3.5 to 4, is well below 500 in professional and college level. There's a lot of talk about how good someone is without the track record per se as the head coach. I'm looking to see, is this the year that Hugh begins to separate? Is this the year where I think if Grambling can go 7-5, 8-4, that's a good season for Grambling. And I'm really being serious about that. And I think it'll be interesting, like you said, when it comes time to pick teams, Grambling, Southern, Prairie View, Alcorn, Texas Southern. That's 5 of the 6 in the West. Who are you giving it to? I mean, are you going to go with the coaching? Somebody might pick Alcorn State because of Coach McNair. Somebody might pick Texas Southern with a healthy Andrew Body. Somebody might choose Prairie View because of this, that, and the other. So interesting. I don't know, man. It's just interesting. Here's an interesting question for you, Drew, right off the bat. Should or is Hugh on the hot seat at Grambling? Let's see how this year goes.
Pregnant pause on that one.
Yeah, pregnant pause, because another 3-8, 4-7
If
season.
Hugh does not get to 500, I would say yes.
Yeah, I would too. Because remember, you got rid of Grambling, and I'm speaking you. You got rid of the coach who had an unbeaten season, won you a Black College title, won you SWAC titles, and he had a couple of down years right around COVID. That's what you got rid of. You got rid of a Grambling man.
It would sound like Bethune to me.
Well, look.
Lawrence Q says it's Central that's going to UCLA next year, Brian.
Yeah. That's
Oh, you just put it on the screen.
Yeah, that'll be interesting paydays for Central.
Here's the question.
And we already know Tennessee State's going to catch a mill from Notre Dame. But what's the question? Go ahead.
Does anybody go undefeated in the SWAC again this season? I'm not going to tell you this. I'm not going to ask you who. Does anyone go undefeated in the SWAC? I know where your heart is, Mariah.
I can't do that this year, Drew. I can't do it because the last 2 years I stood on that hill and I stood on that island and I got ran over.
Hill 1 through 7. Pick one.
The first year it was a hill. The second year it was an island. And I got ran over and drowned both years. I can't. You know what my heart.
But like I say, I'm not asking you to tell me who. Does anyone go undefeated in the SWAC?
Sure.
Yeah, I can answer that in the YouTube chats also.
Yeah.
Does anyone go undefeated in the SWAC?
Yeah.
And if you answer it in the chat, tell me who. Now, let's take this question to the other conference. Does anyone go undefeated in the MEAC?
Well, hell, you only got to play 5 teams.
But it hasn't happened. It didn't happen last year. It happened 2 years ago. When South Carolina State won 6 games, a 5-up win in the conference. But do we get undefeated BX season?
I don't even know how to respond to you, Spence. Who gets closer? What do you mean who gets closer? Closer to what? Closer to the bottom of the... Anyway, let me stop. I'm not going to start. It's too early. We're not even into the summer yet.
Right now, Spence, Jackson State might be number 3 on the east side.
Ooh.
When the preseason predictions come in the SWAC, would not surprise me if Jackson State is as low as 3. We all know who's going to be the preseason favorite.
Well, hold on. You got transfers from Alabama State. You've got there's a lot of transfers in Alabama State, so that's going to cause a lot of people to be
probably going to be ranked. It's probably going to be number 2 in a lot of the preseason prognostication. Some of them. I won't say a lot of them. Some of them. Alabama State. I'm thinking.
I don't know. I think you'll be surprised.
Definitely not A&M.
This is what I'll tell you.
Definitely not Bethune.
Hold on. I think there is a lot of love.
And definitely not Valley.
I think there is a lot of love for TC Taylor by the media. I think the media really likes TC Taylor.
What people are going to look at, Brian, though, let's be real. People are going to look at the players who left and the impact of the players who left. And that's because TC Taylor has had a damn good recruiting season that no one has talked about. But I'm just saying, in the predictions.
No. I think Jackson State's going to be 2. No, I think Jackson State will be 2 in the preseason predictions because, yes, they've lost a lot of offensive talent. But I think that, again, I think what they've replaced, one of the things that I was going to, that I spotlighted when I was looking at Zach's page earlier, he started up just recently last week, what he calls the FCS football front page. And you just look at the number of guys who have gone in and out of the portal, whether guys are coming out of leaving HBCUs or coming into HBCUs. 2 names from Jackson State that are real interesting. Jaheim Hazel, the former Wofford defensive back, going to Jackson State. Former defensive lineman John Graves III from Southeast Louisiana going to Jackson State. Now, I do think with every transfer that is coming out or leaving, or rather say coming into a school, not all of them are coming in with these great statistics. I mean, there's a reason why these guys are transferring. I mean, look, I'll even start with, the former 5-star offensive lineman Cardell Thomas, who left LSU to go to Florida A&M, right? Yes, he was a former 5-star, but his time at LSU, he was injured, was behind in the depth chart. So, there's a reason why all these guys left and did leave. So the question is, when you look at who these guys were, and I'll tell you another thing that's pretty funny, Drew. All of these guys who left, this is now their 3rd school. Most of them, this HBCU that they're going to is like their 3rd school. They were at some school to start, then they somehow transferred maybe to a community college school or somewhere else, and now somehow they're at, now their 3rd school, which is a HBCU. It's kind of interesting, and I think that's one thing when you brought up that question about the transfer portal, that's the thing that's going to be real interesting here in the next couple of years of how that affects guys. But, like I said, I think Jackson State will be the 2. That's just my thought. What else? Any other thoughts there?
No, because I'm not even going to get into CIAA and SIAC because you really don't know on the Division II level because When you've already said the CIAA has a super secret handshake going on over there, not even telling people when they're having their spring games. So we don't know what's going on in the CIAA.
And it's probably out there. It's just, I haven't seen the media. I haven't found it. Put it like that. I mean, maybe it's out there somewhere, but I just haven't found it yet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know they've had them. So and then same thing with the SIAC. It's just tough to. I won't say it's tough, but they limit the amount of information, especially at the Division II level, that they put out. And a lot of Division IIs really don't sign guys until the summertime. People go into the portal, they're waiting on that offer, that they don't get that offer. Then all of a sudden they start looking Division II and NAIA, trying to make sure that they have a landing spot. And a lot of these people will not have a landing spot, Brian, unfortunately. So it's just the reality of it. But you're going to see a shift in about another, probably beginning after this year, back towards the high school shooting, Brian. Because the transfer portal is littered with COVID kids, still littered with COVID kids. And some of these COVID kids are in the transfer portal quite naturally because they graduated from their school, but because of COVID, they may have 2 years of eligibility remaining. And especially if you go to a 4-year only school, there are no degree programs for you beyond those 4 years. So you have to transfer if you want to continue playing football. And if you have 2 years of eligibility left, why not take advantage of that situation and get your schooling paid for? Very smart business decision by these young men and young women who are in that position.
All right. Let me transition to something here. Well, let me.
Spence, we're not going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
this comment.
I hear you. I hear
about
you.
the moving up and who could join the SWAC. We're not going down that rabbit hole today, my brother.
Hey, did you see this was a release that came out from the SWAC that they're going to be honoring Walter Payton at the Southwestern Athletic Conference Alumni Association Legends Awards and Roast on May 20th at the Embassy Suites Ridgeland in Birmingham. The event annually honors former student athletes as well as former or current coaches, athletes, administrators, and staff members who have had positive impacts on the historic conference. Payton will receive the association's Lifetime Achievement Award posthumously, and it will be accepted by a member of the Payton family. Am I like you? I'm stumped that he's not already in that club.
What took so damn long? The man been dead for at least 20 years. Probably closer to 30. I mean, no, it hasn't been quite 30, but I know it's been at least 20 to 25 years since Walter Payton has passed. It took you that long to figure it out? Now, I am going to say, I'm glad somebody in the SWAC office or whoever puts together this committee for this award realized, damn, y'all, we don't have Walter Payton in here.
Walter Payton in this one.
How the hell we missed that one? Let's fix this right now. I'm glad somebody was smart enough to realize that.
Now, unless they're only honoring one person a year. Now, if they're only honoring one person a year, I can see why. Because, again, let me say, this Alumni Association was founded in December 10th in 1999. So it's only been, it hasn't even been a full 25 years. And don't forget, you had COVID, which kind of took 2 years out of anybody doing any kind of stuff like this. So really, you got about 20 years of this thing being around.
You can still do the press release, Brian, and you just had the ceremony at 21 like everybody else did. So I'm not gonna give you that one.
Oh, come on. Well, yeah, Birmingham is home of the SWAC. That's why they're doing that there. So I just, Hey, look, it's great for Walter Payton. I mean, look, we're just now realizing that Walter Payton wasn't wasn't already included in these kind of things. Well, so be it. Let's transition to something that's happening. I saw it come across Twitter this weekend. Matter of fact, Bethune-Cookman, who just recently had their spring game. I don't know what their colors are. I can't really think of it right now. The kitty cat spring game. Okay, they they just had their spring game. I'm sorry. They recently announced that they are breaking ground on the future of Wildcat football, Drew. That's right. The Wildcats are, as you can see here, actually putting together a practice field and facility, which, if we recall anything, this was sort of one of the things that led to the whole, Ed Reed departure. Well, I don't even know what to call it, but we'll just say the departure from Bethune as he was clearing a plot of land. As you can see, the initial designs.
I wonder if that's the same plot of land he was clearing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Why you say that? Yes, it is, Drew. You so astutely you caught that. You caught that, didn't you? Yes, it is. It is. As you can see from they have two different conceptual site plans there, from Plan A and Plan B. There's slight moderations to those two plans, but yes, this is the infamous field that was cleared by Ed Reed. Unfortunately, it will not be called Ed Reed Field. So despite what jokingly many of you, including myself, I bit the bullet. Pure petty. I told you I love petty, so I'm all for it. This will not be named after Ed Reed, even though who knows? Charles Barkley's funds may have helped contribute. It might need to be named after Charles Barkley, who recently donated $1 million to Bethune Athletics.
Did Ed Reed have 5 on it?
Maybe before he was let go, he had 5 on it. I don't know, or he was in the midst of trying to get people. But anyway, they're going to call this the John Bryan Field. John Bryan Field. Now, I don't claim to be educated enough in BCU history to know who John Bryan is, but I'm sure it's a somebody worthy of having this field named after him. And yes, I recall driving past this plot of land behind where this plot of land. It's hard to describe if you've never been to Bethune-Cookman's campus where this is, but they do have the opportunity to have an almost athletic training football field facility. And so that's what's really encouraging. Congrats to Bethune. Exactly. I mean, I agree 100% with your sentiments, Chuck. Hey, congratulations to Bethune for, better late than never. Get it right. We can fuss about when they got it right and all that other stuff and why it took so long and all this other stuff. But at the point, look, they have an opportunity here to move forward. And sometimes you have to look. We've seen this happen at Florida A&M. Sometimes you have to shine a light on the dark, ugly spots around your campus to get things done. You really do. And sadly, sometimes it isn't until you feel a little embarrassed before you want to make change, or you stop making excuses as to why you can't make a change. if that part makes sense. So coming August 2023, Drew. So this seems to be a kind of project that's going to work itself out over the course of the broken ground. So over the next 4 months, to clear out the land all the way, throw down some field turf.
Brian, unless that land is already ready, you cannot have field turf ready in 4 months.
Says who?
I've witnessed it. It depends on what you have to do as far as getting that land ready. If there's, how long did it take for Tuskegee to get their stadium done?
Well, why did it take Tuskegee that long?
Actually, one of the main problems was irrigation, because they went from a natural surface to the field turf. The natural surface had underground irrigation, and they had to pull all of that irrigation out.
This is just a field, Drew. There's no
right.
underground
but
irrigation.
Even still, I'm just throwing it out there. That's one challenge. But even still, with a field, you still have to level, laser grade, and prepare it for the for the turf. And I just witnessed it at the high school that I used to work at. It took them 8 months. Yeah, probably 8 months to install the practice turf at their facility. 8 to 10 months.
Now, if you're wondering what the primary difference is between the two plans here,
so they're building. Looks like one is on the parking lot.
There's a 9,000 square foot locker building. That's that red or orange building.
Pink. Yeah,
pink, whatever you want to call it. In one drawing, they're basically taking an existing building that's in that spot down in the bottom right corner and working, to renovate that. And thus you have the parking lot area there, which is a small parking lot. And then
coaches only probably.
Probably. And then the other one is you actually keep the existing building and then you build the new locker area, that 9,000 square foot locker area, in what would be a parking lot.
Was the first rendering 9,000 square feet also in the remodeling the building?
No. So the
7,100. So if they built it, it would be slightly larger. That's what I was trying to see.
Which one are you looking at? A?
Oh yeah, it looks like it says 7,100 square feet.
Yeah. So
and then the other one is 9,000. So the new facility, the new building would be slightly larger.
Yes, it will, because the existing space, the locker room, it says 50, almost 5,300 square feet. A laundry facility of 1,200 square feet, storage. It says the benefits to the concept there. Prominent location to International Speedway Boulevard, which is the road to the far right. And it has a direct connection to the existing building that in yellow. Access to the laundry space. And allows for construction of the 100-yard field. Cost estimate at $5 million. Little over $5 million. Plan B is actually just under $6 million. So about 5.9, and that's obviously because you're building a new building there, 8,500 square foot building with a laundry facility and storage. So that's kind of the difference. Be interesting to see which route they go with, but hey, look, if you got the money, you might as well build a new building, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yeah, might as well build it. So, but just thought that'd be some interesting developments for Bethune-Cookman. You know, good for the Wildcats, adding to their facility upgrades.
Yay, Bethune.
Yay, Bethune. Let me ask this. I want to go to this question here. Good question here from Edward. How would I go about increasing revenue for low revenue producing D2 HBCUs? Drew?
If you had the answer to that question, you would be an athletic director at a lot of these low revenue producing D2 HBCUs. Number one, they've got to be creative. They have to be creative in their approach to generating funds. Now, when you say a D2 institution, are we talking rural? Are we talking urban? Are we talking CIAA? Or are we talking SIAC?
And why does that matter? Explain why that matters from a conference perspective.
CIAA, the bulk of their revenue comes off of basketball. Let's be real. They are a basketball country. They are going to make their money in basketball and that CIAA tournament. That's where CIAA makes their money, while SIAC tends to be more of football country. So you're going to have to plan your events and your money and fundraising around football. SIAC leads Division II in attendance in football. So they have that. So it's a little bit of a different marketing strategy as far as what are you going to revolve your fundraising and revenue around. And it's probably a lot easier to generate revenue off of football than off of basketball. But irregardless of what you do, we've got to generate enough funds so that our Division II institutions can fully fund their athletic departments, which was part of that conversation that you and I were talking about earlier, Brian, that was had during the first set of their championship match.
Yeah.
How many of these institutions are fully funding the scholarships? I know of a basketball program, and I'm not going to call out that institution. Division II, I believe you get 10 scholarships for basketball. I know somebody who's only giving out 3.
Wow. That's crazy.
But you, Joe fan, expect that coach to win this conference every year. But he's only got 3 scholarships.
And so how is he supplementing that? Are they pulling are they pulling the funds for guys from other places?
Depends on the institution, Brian. Are you able to pull money from the academic side? Which means you better go out and have a bunch of 3.5 players who could put up 15 points a night.
Mm-hmm.
And that 3.5 refers to their GPA. Or some institutions won't allow you to mix money, especially when you talk about private institutions. They're only going to give you money from one pot or the other. You're going to get an academic scholarship or you're going to get an athletic. Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Is you going to get an academic grant and aid or an athletic grant and aid? Because they're not scholarships at the Division II level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing. Baseball, Division II baseball gets 9. I can tell you of an institution that for a long point in time ran with 1.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell you run a program of 1?
Right.
Let me
so here I'll add this by saying I think the greatest resource that all of these schools have is their inventory of games. and the young people who play the games and their history. And again, you have to be, for some reason, schools got away from, their communities to some degree.
You know when that happened, Brian?
When?
I'm gonna tell you when that happened. That started happening in the 80s because of basically federal legislation and it had a little bit to do with Title IX that kind of forced certain security measures on college campuses in general, not just HBCUs, but college campuses in general. You know what you started seeing in the 80s on a lot of our college campuses, Brian, that you never saw before? A fence.
Okay.
I guarantee you, when your dad went to Norfolk and your mom went to Norfolk, there weren't many fences around that campus separating that campus from the community.
Okay.
When the last time you've been to Norfolk, and how many gates and fences they got up in Norfolk? My point exactly.
That's a good question. Well,
and I just bring that up because I know you know that Norfolk history with your parents having been there, and
Yeah.
every HBCU is like that. I remember Tuskegee was like that because long before I went to Tuskegee, I visited Tuskegee, and there were no fences around Tuskegee. I remember when they started building those fences around Tuskegee.
Right. Well, let me come back to the idea of saying what can we do, and where I was going sort of with the inventory is you have an opportunity now with the internet, which is the same internet that ESPN uses, Fox, Black College Sports, the same internet that you're looking at right now. The same internet is a great equalizer, but you got to be smart about how you use it, and you got to get the most out of it. What I mean by that is there needs to be a synergy, and I've said this before in other places, and I keep coming back to it. There's got to be a synergy between, and this has to come from the highest level of your university. So let me start here. There has to be a concerted effort from the president's office to go down to the athletic department, to the communications, your journalism school, to your business school, and say, I need all three of you to work together for the betterment of our university and for the betterment of our for the athletic department. Because here's why. Okay, but hey, I'm the president telling you this is what needs to happen. Put your ego in your desk. Put it in your pocket. If you can't do it, I'll find somebody else. Here's why. My athletic department, I want all my games, my home games, available online. Marketing, business school. I need you to work with my athletic marketing team. We have students, great students who are looking for opportunities. Okay, I need opportunities. Create these opportunities for them to be able to utilize the vast resource that athletics brings. And then we have the need to, whether it be social media posts, to broadcast games, all of that's right there on campus. Okay,
it is, Brian.
It is on campus, and it's a change in the mindset, Drew. I mean, we can talk about. Again, I'm just answering the question. Now, you can give me all these reasons why it won't work and why it doesn't work like that. I'm just telling you, if we go back to the question, if you're asking me, again, if Edward asked me, he said, how about increasing revenue for low revenue? I'm telling you how to do it. I'm telling you how I would do it. Now, you can give me all these other reasons why it doesn't work like that, why it ain't happening. This is what I would do. You give me something else that you have, Drew, that can produce revenue other than your inventory of athletic events.
Hey, Brian. Just got a text. I got somebody who can answer that question for you. You ready to go?
I mean, well,
you ready to go to a Sunday class?
No, but I mean, look, if they go, I want you want to tell me why they're going to tell me why it won't work or why it can work. That'll be determined on whether I want to listen to it or not at this point in the evening.
Let's bring on the dean and ask him. he just sent me a text. He wants to chime in on this.
Oh boy! All right. So
send the dean a link.
All right, I'm gonna send the dean a link.
We're gonna let the dean. We're gonna let the dean of HBCU Sports.
All right.
Answer that question. But while you talk about that, Brian, the one thing that I have noticed is a lot of egos, a lot of departments, and they are very territorial. It just in colleges in general has nothing specifically to do with athletics. It is the people
again,
at these institutions.
Are we running a business? And see, that's the difference between colleges that probably need to change a little bit of their mindset and work like businesses instead of continually working in this space that you and other educators seem to be referring to in terms of saying that, oh, it's that we don't operate this way, and this is
Brian, I'm gonna go back to what I said in the first segment before we get to this break, because
you're an SBI. You're an SBI guy.
I know the formula. They taught me the formula. Dr. Bobley taught me the formula well in the School of Business and Industry at Florida A&M University. But Brian, there are very few presidents out there like A. Zachary Faison who actually care about their athletics.
All right.
I said it. And they're more here. What's your guy at Virginia State?
Dr. McCullough.
Yes. He's another one on that level. Those are just two off the top of my head that I can think of. And I know there are plenty of other ones, but those are two off the top of my head who care about their institutions at that level.
I think the level of care is different. I mean, it's an A, B, or C level of care.
Yes. They are definitely in the A range, though.
Right. And then there's some other schools. Oh,
let's go to break. That's cool.
Over.
Break. I
told you over. No, you didn't catch it. Over 1.5. Cha-ching.
I told you let's go to break.
I was staying on this week and see him fall.
Get me out of here, man.
Let's take a break. Yeah, congratulations. You hit the over on the 1.5 on Drew's poster falling. All right, we'll be back in just a minute. Hopefully we'll have Dr. Kenyatta Cavil on the other side. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and A.D. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU Sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
When you're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. here. Coming up shortly will be Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. He's going to be joining us to kind of give a little more perspective from the university. Someone who has sat in those high-level administrative meetings. Someone.
That's what he said it means.
Yes, yes. So I'm sure there's a lot of behind the scenes knowledge, but again, this all stems from just the question that Edward asked us about how can you increase revenue for low revenue producing D2 HBCUs, and you know, everyone doesn't see athletics as the front porch of colleges and universities. I'll be honest. I think we have that perception because we see as sports-minded people. Don't forget who we are. We are sports-minded people. If you're here, you probably love sports to some degree. You probably love HBCU sports even more. So we think of these things from a lens of someone who is interested in sports. But remember, there's just as many people probably who love sports that view colleges as a higher purpose to educate. And that is the college's primary focus. A lot of your professors, I'd probably say maybe 40, 60, 50%, somewhere in there, view colleges as, hey, their primary goal is to educate students, not necessarily, who won the football game or who did what or won the championships and all that other stuff. That's extracurricular, and
Brad, that's high schoolish.
What's high schoolish? That mindset?
Extracurricular. Yes.
I think that's somebody who doesn't understand, that's someone who either doesn't understand or doesn't appreciate the economic impact that college athletics has on the university.
I agree.
So,
I agree. But those student athletes in essence, are getting paid just like that professor is getting paid to represent their university.
Are they getting paid? Wait a minute. What did you just say? Who's getting paid?
Well, Brian, have you seen the cost of education?
But some kids at HBCUs aren't getting.
Let me rephrase that. They are getting a significant discount. If that's a better way of putting it.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
They are getting a significant discount for their information. I mean, for their playing a sport.
Yeah. Well, I just again, I think there's a purpose to.
Brian is working on it, Dr. Cavil.
Yeah, I've sent a couple of different links. It's coming from a Gmail account, Doc. So I don't know.
It's coming from Brian's Gmail, not mine.
Yeah. So I've sent it a couple different ways. So hopefully he'll get it here in a second, and we can get him on the show to kind of hear about that from that perspective. I will make let's kind of while we're waiting here.
Want to do the rankings while we're waiting?
Yeah. Let's do.
We can come back.
Yeah, we can come back and catch up with Doc here. All right, so week number 7 coming up here of our softball and baseball rankings. There's about 2 weeks left in the season for the Division II NAIA. Less than
most of them NAIA. Both of them will finish it up this week. Some of them, this was their last series this weekend, and for those who don't finish this weekend, they will finish up this upcoming weekend if they even get to the weekend, because there are some that are going Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or some that are going Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so that they have rest, because most of your NAIA and Division II tournaments are beginning early next week. And then the Division I still have approximately 3 weeks left in their season, 3 to 4 weeks left in their season.
Okay. So let's kind of go through the top 5. And we're going to start with the non-Division I level for softball, which is the Division II and NAIA level. In the hunt, we've got Lane College. Congratulations to Lane. 33 wins on the year. Very impressive. I don't care who you're playing against. Just, putting up 33 wins whenever you step out in the field is a positive thing. Miles followed them up. Then Albany State, Winston-Salem, and Jarvis Christian round out the in the hunt. So we move to the top 5. Stillman College. Stillman had a tough weekend, dropping all the way from 2 to number 5. 32-14, 14-2 in conference play. Claflin holds steady at the 4 spot, 23-9, 9-1 in conference play. Tuskegee holds firm at the 3 spot, 22-15, 15-4. Moving up to number 2, Edward Waters, 38-7, 18-3, just clinched the Eastern Division, I believe, of the SIC. I saw that via their Twitter feed earlier. Congratulations to Edward Waters. I think I've got that right. I think it was the Eastern Division that they clinched.
Yes, it was.
Yep. So congratulations to Edward Waters. And then still holding on to the number 1 spot is Bowie State, 30-11, still unbeaten in conference play, 13-0, 30-11. Moving over to the Division I side. You've got got ahead of myself. North Carolina Central, North Carolina Central, Alabama A&M, Florida A&M that just lost 2 of 3 to Bethune-Cookman. There you go, Bethune-Cookman won 2 out of 3 over Florida A&M, and then Tennessee State. It hurt my heart to say that, but yeah, that's what happened. Here's the top 5. The top 5, number 5 is Alabama State, 13-7 in conference play, 25-9 overall. Grambling State jumps from out of the in the hunt category into the 4 spot with 27-16 overall, 12-6 in conference play. Number 3 stays steady. It's Norfolk State still, 12-5 in conference play, 22-17. Morgan State, by less than a point over Norfolk State, is the number 2 ranked team, 21-19. And this is where you people who are the stat nerds or the non-stat nerds will look at this and be like, how in the heck can Morgan State? Anyway, stats, numbers, people, numbers. Just remember, numbers.
You're talking 11-4 versus 12-5. I mean, one more win, but one less loss. How does the computer look at that?
Yeah, and then they'll also say, oh, but they've got 1 less win and 2 more losses overall. Look, computers do their thing. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it'll all get settled when these 2 teams you get into postseason tournament play. Morgan State, Norfolk State, that's when it'll really be settled. The top team is still Prairie View A&M. They finally lost a game in conference play, but they're still 19-1 overall, 23-16 is them. You want to go to Doc or finish or go to baseball? Now we got Doc in.
Let's go ahead. Let's bring Doc in, then we can wrap up with baseball after that.
All right. So
he may want to stay on for the baseball anyway.
Yeah, maybe, but we'll bring in Dr. Kenyatta Cavil to join us, and there he is himself, the dean. He's going to school us. I always get nervous when we get in these conversations because I feel like my favorite professor is about to school me. So Doc, you heard let me put back.
Don't pull out the red pen, Doc.
Yeah, don't pull out the red pen just yet, Doc. I'm going to show back Edward's question again, which brought us to this again, was how do we go about increasing revenue for low revenue producing Division II HBCUs? Okay, that's where we started down this rabbit hole. And again, if you know me, it's not the first time I've said it in terms of presenting this synergetic model that a university should have. I said should. I get it. Everybody's not perfect, where you got your president saying to, your 3, your athletics, your market, your athletics, your journalism or communication school, and your business school. If you can merge those 3 or get those 3 to somehow work together, you may be able to create something special that generates something. What say you, Doc? And go ahead. Your thoughts.
I think this is a great discussion. It's extremely important. So I won't bring out the red pen, and I won't say what you're saying is impossible, but what I like to have is a dialogue here. And I want us to get into dialogue in such a way that we can educate people about the process. And I think sometimes that's where we find ourselves in trouble. We think we know what we really don't know, which is not anybody's fault. But I think it's important that we understand the framework of how we operate so we can all become more informed such that our questions or our suggestions are based in that framework. So let me level set right there first. I think it's dangerous when we say that schools need to have a more business model. There are some elected officials out there that would concur with you. Many Republicans believe higher education, and to some degree, the federal state government needs to be more business-like. There's some pros to that. I think you can honestly say that, but there's some cons. And I would say in a lot of ways, the cons outweigh the pros. If we go back to the true venture of education is not supposed to be a business platform. It is in the framework of allowing the populace to have a certain level of education. Some would suggest one of the reasons the United States, if you want to see it in this way, is in the conundrum that it is now is the fact that education is not just that. It is not just about educating your populace. It is about business. And in some cases, people would say it's about business as usual. And for those that want to reframe what that looks like, because oftentimes the business as usual did not include people like us. So we have to really understand the historic nature before we move forward. The second part of this that I think is important for us to contextually consider is low revenue producing programs are low revenue producing programs for a reason. You just don't turn a switch and then all of a sudden make them revenue producing. Then we also, if we're going to talk about business, I think this is one part that we can talk about business. Just because something produces revenue doesn't mean it produces a profit. I think oftentimes we get confused by the two. There are a lot of our institutions and those institutions outside of this that we often refer to as the Power Five. I tend to, and the NCAA refers to them as the Autonomous Five. And there's only a small part of that group with all the revenue that they generate that actually generates profits, which means you operate in the positive. Because remember, revenue is just one side of the equation. It's revenue minus expenses determines whether you're going to have a profit or a what?
Loss.
Yeah, right? So we talk about this framework and this verbiage as if having more revenues is going to answer our question. And I'm not saying that's not necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes there are formulas that say that you are going to have a unit that operates at a loss because their overall benefit to the overall operation of the organization or said company, if we want to go in that direction, offsets the fact that it is a loss center, while there are other entities that generate revenue in such a way that your overall look is profit setting margin, if we're going to get there. So let's be cognizant of what we're saying when we say revenue, produce more revenue. Are we going to produce more revenue enough that's going to get outside of our expenses such that we generate profits? Again, sometimes I would argue you can generate more revenues and have expenses in such a way that it is reducing your loss, which is beneficial. At least you're closer to zero than you are away from it. Because once you get closer, then at some point, maybe you can get into a profit margin setting. So let's remember that part of this equation, that when you generate revenues, expenses. Now let's get back to the second part of your recommendation, Bryan, which I think has some positive things to it, but we need to understand how the university works. Academics, for the most part, does not report really to the president. Academic side of the house reports, if you're a faculty member, to a department chair that you used to go to and have to get registered for your classes. You remember that. Your department chair reports to your dean, somebody you probably didn't know until you were a junior or senior, unless they were just really one of those outgoing people, which is great, but all of them are not like that. Your dean then reports, if you would, to the provost. And then your provost reports to the president. So that's a lot of layers of hierarchy. So for your president to go in, and now you're acting as if your president understands what you're telling them to do. They don't necessarily know, unless they come out of the school of business, they don't know how business academically works. They don't know how the school of communication, unless they come out formally of the school of communication, they don't know how that operation works. And even if they come out of communication, they may be a journalist specialist, but they don't know radio, television, and film. So you asking them to set and say, do something in an area that they likely don't even have ideas educationally what that looks like. But you're going to make them give an edict to say, get this done. And that's the same thing if they're not coming out of business that they wouldn't understand. Right? So those are things that we must educatedly understand how that operates. So let's say that there is a major project where you have your provost talking to your departments with athletics And previously, your athletics, and in some institutions, particularly at the Division II level, your athletics don't report to the president. Let me say that again, because some of y'all are confused. There are several cases at our Division II level where our athletic director, a director now, look at the title, a director, not a VP, doesn't report to the president. Oftentimes, they will report to a CFO a lot of times, or a VP in a different area, maybe auxiliary services or student services.
Student services, yeah.
Could be another area, exactly, that they report to. Now, the newest model, you do have a lot of cases where your ADs have become VP, and they do report and sit on what you call the Leadership Council of the Presidents, which are all the key areas of the university where a president will have its direct leadership team that carries out the strategic plan of the president in terms of the strategy of where the university wants to go. Right? So if you're lucky, that's a case where your VP can sit up with the president. VP can come over there and say, hey, I think it would be some synergy if we could work with the business school. And this is somebody that comes out of athletics that has no earthly idea other than what they did when they went to the school. Even if they went and got a doctorate, they don't understand the business side of academics. When you generate revenue, if you want to call it that, off FTEs, and I say that most of y'all don't even know what that is, but y'all gonna tell everybody else how to run this shop. Credit hours, how to manage your room, set classes at a certain threshold where they make sure that the order of your classes operating such folks that can graduate in 4 years, which the state and federal government tends to look and say whether your institution is working in terms of matriculation rates, right? Retention rates. How many of y'all know about those?
Don't miss that one class if you don't take it where you got to sit a whole year.
4-year rate. Which one y'all want to talk about? But y'all want to tell the academic side of the house how to do their business. But y'all don't even know terms. Y'all don't know reports they send it in to the state or the federal. But that's another side of the issue. But let's bypass this and be nice and act like everybody's on the same page and it's okay. Let's get out of that and not be ugly and make folks look like they don't know what much as they talking about anyway. But we educating, right? We're having dialogue. We're gonna have discourse, if you would. So let's say these folks sit down, the dean or the provost, whichever one you want to talk, department chair, which one you want. Because if it's the provost, they got to talk to the dean. Then the dean got to talk to the chair. And is it your VP of athletics that's going to be running this? Or is it your sports information director? Who in athletics is going to make this goal that you said that this needs to happen? Who you putting in place? Is the AD going to take up
gonna be
role?
the AD telling
is the sports information that you already say can't get you enough information out there because they are one-man shop, a two-man shop? Who going to do this? Who gonna sit with these other folks to make this work? Since this is a brilliant plan, it's that easy, right? Who gonna do that? I'll wait. I know y'all thinking through this. Are y'all just gonna let the students come together and do all this? You know, they so smart, and y'all not gonna pay them, but they gonna make this work. So the students just gonna create their own
internship.
Thing. Some students from business that are still learning business. Right, some students from communication that just learning how to turn on the camera. They're gonna write a whole plan about your special organization you want, and then you're gonna get mad if they put this on television, streaming platform, and it doesn't look at the level that you want your university to look at. You gonna point fingers now. Some of y'all gonna want some people fired, but you're not even paying them to do this. Hopefully, we're having some good discourse now. Understanding that this. So let's play this out.
You open up
let's
this
say
can
the
of
provost
worms,
says,
Brian.
Dean, I want this. The president told me I want this to happen. So the provost says, hey, Dean, I want you to make this happen. Dean says, hey, department chair, I want you to make this happen. And so the president has talked to the VP of athletics, in this case, because they own the leadership team, or it's the CFO telling the director, I want you to make this happen. and the person said, all right, the budget that you just talked about, that there wasn't enough money to give scholarships at the maximum level. Now that person gonna be like, all right, sure. President, are you provost, dean, are you giving me any extra money to do this? Because you want to return on your investment, so that means you're gonna invest, right, Brian? We got vests and we got no money to do the scholarships, but you won't do this because at some point it's gonna generate revenue, but y'all just think revenue gonna fall out the side because you ain't put no expenses in there to cover your costs for this new operation in this unit that you just finna do. As if students are not working to pay for the highest cost of education, but you're not gonna pay them because you're just gonna say this is good experience and they're gonna know how to do it. Where they
gonna do good on your resume?
Where are they gonna do that?
I'm gonna have to form
I'm not saying this ain't a great idea.
I'm gonna have to form a special committee.
I want to get the meat and potatoes so we understand how you're gonna implement this.
I'm gonna have to form a special committee.
Hey, Brian. Hey, remember, he didn't pull the red pen out on you.
I saw that. I know he didn't pull the red pen out yet. I'm gonna have to form a special committee to have to try to figure out how to adjudicate all of these moving parts.
Right. Now we can make it real simple. We can get an alumnus like you that I know got a bag of money. And you work so hard for it, as if you're not investing in yourself or you trying to pay your apartment, pay your own bills, your own business. But just write me a check. Let's keep it simple because we can get this going. Just write me a check for $20,000. We'll make this happen. Just basic. It'll be basic now. But it's so easy. Just write the check. Since we need a little investment, because don't worry, you write the investment, you write that $20K, we're gonna be able to turn this into a profit generating operation. And so we won't have to come back to you. Just give it the first starter money.
Hey, Dr. Cavil, I got the answer that everybody always says. Why don't you write a grant for it?
That was the special committee that I was going to put together. That was going to be somebody.
Isn't that always the first suggestion, Dr. Cavil?
Somebody was going to have to research a grant opportunity
and get somebody to sponsor it. Those are always the top. Those are always two of the top three suggestions.
Isn't there a grant for it? Can we write a grant for it?
Yes, that's a grant. It sure is a grant. You're gonna write all this right up for this grant, for this $1 million grant. And they be like, we don't fund that.
Yeah. No. I think, look, I do think that the first thing, and you brought up a great point about the revenue and expenses. That's the first thing that I think that you're 100% correct in that. Even when you talk about how can we generate revenue, really what the question is, and to go back to Edward's original question, it should be how to create profits or profitable ventures for your institutions. That's really the rephrasing of the question, because like you said, when you do talk about creating revenue, there are expenses with every revenue idea, whether it be your manpower. That's an expense because, as you stated and pointed out so well, nowadays you probably have to go about the process of finding dollars or setting up some sort of resource for your student helpers, whatever you want to call them, so really that's what we're talking about, is how do we create profitable streams, or I don't even want to call them revenue streams anymore. I guess we just have to call it profit streams. That's probably a better way. I think we've got, and I'm guilty of this. We heard that word revenue streams before. It's I don't know where, but it's just out there. It's just this word that's just thrown around. Well, we got to create revenue streams, but like you said, really what you're talking about is profit streams. Because if you just talk about revenue, you got to be thinking about expenses as well. But it's fascinating to hear the the organizational structure of a university and how look, I appreciate and I respect the fact, I understand, as I said earlier, I get it that not every faculty member, not every administrator views athletics as the doorstep to your university. Even though there are statistics that show that when you do and have certain things, like we can use the North Carolina A&T success in the Celebration Bowl from several years back and what that did for the increase in applications. There are several schools within the SWAC. I know Florida A&M has seen an increase in applications. And look, the marketing vehicle of the university is, maybe it's the 100, maybe it's the athletics, but it's just that to a lot of people. You know, it's just that. It's just marketing. It's the marketing that helps us serve the greater purpose, which is our education and educating students. And I do agree that we have been sort of conditioned as sports fans. And like I said, that's why I said, we all, if you're watching this show or there's a level of a sports fandom that you have, whether it be for HBCUs, whether it be for small schools, whether it be just in general college athletics, that brings you into this space. But there are just as many people who only care about academia and see athletics being that sort of, I don't want to call it poison, but being that sort of that distraction from our greater purpose, for lack of a better word. So
yeah, I think you really summed it up well, to your credit. So I'm gonna put my red pen down because I like the way you did this. We've had this discourse, and you come back with some substance framework. But let me put it like this.
Yeah.
Education, our programs are like, let's say it's like a cake. Let's look specific in this case, like a pound cake.
Okay.
Right? You know, the pound cake itself, you cut it up, a lot of people will be happy just to get a pound cake and taste it. They'll be like, hey, this is good. Give me some milk with it, and I'll take this to town. But sports is like having icing on that pound cake. It takes it to another level. It certainly artistically can make it look better. But the icing alone, you may even eat it yourself, but if you just do that, if you're not careful, you get sick on it. You know, it's made to go on top of the cake. And the band, to its case, is like a strawberry or some ice cream with your pound cake, right? It's another entity, and you put all this together, it can be really good. But we got to understand that the foundation is the education. The other thing that I think we get caught up in is we see all these other institutions, namely the Power 5 institutions, and especially if you're talking about the SEC and the Big Ten, that they just seem to be wrapped around with money. But we got to understand where that money is coming from. Once is money that they've been able to manipulate or set up the system in such a way that they benefit in just about every way possible for their institutions to be as strong as they are. And the final piece of that, because they've done that, is they can command significant revenue from the television market. So it's not like they're doing a whole bunch outside of that. But because they've gotten this revenue, they're able to cut their expenses to some degree, or they even increase their expenses, but their profit margin is either obviously extremely high, or they may choose to make it at zero in such a way. But more importantly is they now can invest. They can do the things that you're talking about. But that's because they have the excess, the revenue to do the things that we are saying would help us get the revenue. The problem is we don't necessarily have those capillaries, if you would, to put us in a position where we get that extra augmented expenses to help us generate revenue in such a way that we can make a profit. or at least be closer to zero in regards to how we operate. So you're absolutely right that those are things that we need to look at and do. But the baseline, when you're this country and now becoming in the world, I tell people all the time, we're fortunate because most of us live least economically in a position where we can operate day to day. But think about those individuals that you know do not have significant revenue sources. It's hell to be poor in this country. And this is a country where it's hell to be poor if you're an institution. And we know, frankly, without discussion, that our institutions have been deprived of what's necessary, what has been on the table that they are supposed to get. Not anything above it. We've been robbed of the general operating components of our institution. So it's hard to really fathom when you think about that in the overall scheme. When you're trying to get revenue just to keep up with your maintenance, where are you going to have revenue to actually put in any place of your institution to really invest in such a way that you can continue to rise? So if we really think about it, a lot of our institutions are really operating above the axis that it needs to move things forward. They are finding ways to change people's lives without having the appropriate investment, either corporate organizations or state and federal level, that it is truly amazing of what we're able to do. And we need to understand the ability to celebrate that and be careful about this proximity to whiteness that has us in a position to always think that we got to copy and mimic what historically white colleges is doing, that have all the privilege in the world to operate on the level that allows them to set the framework of where they are doing the things that are extremely positive. And we have to find our way to challenge ourselves to say, yes, we must continue to ask our institutions to push forward. We must continue to make sure they're doing things that make sense. But we have to be careful about using the term and framework of the oppressor to put us in a position to think that we're less than because we don't have all those things. And so I kind of wanted to at least end there that we need to change our mindset to always think just because we're not here that somehow we're less than where we need to be because we're not where others are because of what they've been privileged to obtain to get there.
Wow. Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, ladies and gentlemen, every Tuesday and Thursday night right here on the Black College Sports Network, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. That's kind of knowledge that in the breakdown. That's why you listen to the Sports Lab, and that's why the dean is who he is.
Bryan, between that lecture from Dr. Cavil and the lecture or comments that I listened to in the SIAC volleyball tournament, that first set from Coach Johnson and Assistant Athletic Director Wheeler Brown, when they started breaking down just some of the challenges with men's volleyball and some of the scholarship matrix and costs and things like that that go into funding, I have gained a wealth of knowledge. And you talk about somebody who know it all. Now I'm just playing. I don't know it all, but it's great to listen to. It's great to listen to this and just get their perspectives. I'm in it, but Dr. Cavil's in it at a different level. Coach Johnson is in it at a different level. Wheeler Brown is in it at a different level. To just hear all these different levels and these different war stories, it's almost like being at the barbershop, Bryan. When you listen to the old guys at the barbershop, not calling you old, Dr. Cavil, but when you listen to guys at the barbershop just spit knowledge one day, man, that's what it's been like this entire week.
No, it's no problem. I'm proud in a lot of ways. Years of past me, and I probably have more behind me than ahead of me. Hopefully, maybe I'm splitting it in the middle, and I have many years ahead of me. But to be an elder is nothing to be sensitive about. I know some people get frustrated or concerned when they hear young people call them OGs or seasoned, whatever. Great. It doesn't bother me one bit. It just means that I'm blessed to see another day, and I have a lot of experiences. But if we look at this in a culture perspective, one thing I will wholeheartedly agree with Bryan, all of us have to come together, and it's the collective voice of us when we sit together and listen to those that are seasoned, listen to our ancestors that have been passed and they're recording. So when we begin to remember how we were successful in a lot of environments that in many cases were much more vexing than what they are now, with young individuals, the youth, in regards to that, when they're listening to the Baba, in terms of those elders and ancestors, that's when we become our most dangerous and most successful in regards to how we move things forward. So to both of your points, there's no negativity in that. It takes all of us if we're going to be successful in the work that we're doing for our individual homes and communities, our institutions, and above that, in terms of even the world itself. It takes all of us to understand that collective voice if we're going to move things forward. We can't do it as individuals.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I kind of drew. You saw Edmund Moore's comments there. Barbershop, more like that Twitter talk. Doc gave us that. Come on over here and sit under the tree with me, young man. Well said, Edwin. Well said. He's so right about that. So right.
At the cookout. Doc that one at the cookout.
I'll take it. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Doc, you want to stick around as we do the top 5 of the baseball here to sort of close out the show? Top 5 non-D1 and D1 top 5. So while Doc's here, we'll kind of go through the Division 1, or excuse me, this is the non-D1 in baseball. We start down there with Edward Waters, Bluefield State, Kentucky State, Virginia State, and Florida Memorial, all kind of hanging around in the, if you said 6 through 10, okay, but that's what we call in the hunt. Number 5, Miles College jumped into the top 5 with a 20-21 record, 17-12 in conference play. Number 4, Hold Steady with West Virginia State, 16-6 in conference play, 21-16 overall. Talladega stays at the 3 spot, 12-6 overall, 24-16-1 is their record. Savannah State stays put at 2, 21-7 in conference play, 25-10. And Albany State for the 7th consecutive week. Pretty much every week that we have had the non-D1, they have been the number 1 team in our rankings, 26-2, 29-8. Drew, any comments you want to give there on the non-D1 baseball?
Yeah. A couple of interesting things to look at. Number 1, Albany State said their first play, 27, and they're now 27-2 in conference. They won a game today after we did the graphic. Number 2 in the SIAC, their team that always mucks it up for us. I said buck, everybody. That's with an M. Is that non-HBCU in that conference, Spring Hill. They are 26-4. What does that? Why is that significant? Guess who played this weekend?
Ooh, yes. Wow. Okay.
Spring
Albany
Hill,
State versus Spring Hill
in Mobile, Alabama, which is the home to Spring Hill.
Spring Hill. Okay.
Right.
That's what day is that? Is that a Friday, Saturday?
I believe that's gonna be Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week because they're trying to finish up. No, it's Thursday, Friday. They're playing a single Thursday and a double Friday.
Wow. Okay.
So that's going to be for all the marbles in the in the SIAC. And realistically, what's going to happen is it will come down to these two teams will probably, if all goes right, be the two teams in that winner's bracket final. And the winner of this series will be that team that has that last at bat in that winner's bracket final. So that may make a difference come tournament time next week. Who has that last at bat in that winner's bracket? Because obviously we know the loser has to go and play that one extra game to get back to the championship game. So this could be a significant shift in. So Albany State's been up top the entire season. What a shame if they were losing on the last weekend.
Go ahead, Doc.
No, I was just saying it's a great breakdown, and to AD's credit, he's come on our show on Thursday and kind of been our specialist for what we refer to as the mid-major baseball and sometimes even softball analysis, as y'all refer to the non-Division I program. So I'm fascinated, and I've been looking forward to this matchup at the end of the year, just to see if Albany State in some ways can get over the hump, for lack of better words, get over Spring Hill, and set it up in such a way the regular season they get crowned, which is going to go a long way in terms of them getting a bid to the tournament. So I'm fascinated to see what that looks like. Or will it be Spring Hill? And then the tournament is another thing. But I do have an eye on Savannah State because I think it's the type of program sitting at number 2, sitting in number 3 in the SIC, but the second HBCU, if you would, in your poll ranking, which I agree with. Can they do a stumble on whoever's the 2 seed? So this is going to be
exactly the question I was wondering, Doc.
Right.
There
we go into this. Whoever wins this game will probably, as you said, will be the number 1 seed, which means the other team will be the number 2 seed, which will likely sit them with Savannah State.
Yes.
So will Savannah State have a chance to, provide an upset in this? Will it be Albany State at number 2 seed if they can't get it done this weekend, or will it be Spring Hill with Albany State getting it done this weekend in the 2 seed? So I'm fascinating to some degree, not only to look at what takes this weekend, but also in terms of Savannah State.
Well, Savannah State will finish number 3 in the conference. They cannot. That's number 3, Brian. The show's almost over. I'm done with it for the day. You got the money. But Savannah State is locked in at the number 3. Even with the sweep this weekend, they cannot catch either Spring Hill or Albany State. And Miles, who sits in the 4th spot, cannot catch them with a sweep this weekend. So Savannah State is locked in at 3. Miles could wind up flip-flopping with Edward Waters, depending on the outcome of the games this weekend. Let's see. They play. Kentucky State plays Benedict, and Miles has Lane this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So just to throw some of those things out there to you.
Yeah, so I was I'm glad Doc asked that question because I was going to ask a similar thought there regarding Savannah State. And do we know where in the standings Talladega and West Virginia State are? Because obviously with them not being in the HBCU predominant conference or conferences, I was just kind of curious.
I will tell you in just a moment.
And kind of where their conference.
I actually looked at it earlier today when I was.
Edward seems to think that Albany State is a better team than Spring Hill. I don't know if he's predicting, 2 out of 3 or 3 or a sweep. So yeah, win percentages matter. So we'll see. Let me move over while you look that up, maybe it's something we can bring that up after we do the top 5 for the D1, because I want to kind of move us through and get us out of here as quickly as we can. Okay, so for the NCAA Division I side, in the hunt, North Carolina A&T, followed up by Prairie View, then Southern, Maryland Eastern Shore, and then Jackson State. Number 5, Texas Southern, finishing 24-15 overall, 10-6 in conference play. Number 4 is Grambling State, 12-4 in conference play, 17-20 overall. Big drop for Bethune-Cookman, who I know they got beat up by Alabama State. They gave up 14 runs on Friday and Saturday, losing both games. The first one they lost 14-4. The second one they lost 14-3. Drew, do we know a result? Obviously, this doesn't count the results. What happened in today's game?
I was gonna say I didn't know if Doc knew what possibly happened in that Bethune game today, because that was the series of the week for the SWAC.
Yeah, and Albany State just straight housed them this weekend. A bit surprised.
Prairie View got the upset over Alcorn. I mean, 20-10. So they took 2 out of 3 this weekend. They dropped one yesterday where they gave up 4 runs.
Prairie View just a game behind Grambling.
Right, and so it's going to be fascinating when you look at that matchup. In terms of Bethune-Cookman, they had a close one early. Alabama State was coming out of it, and Alabama State sweeps.
Wow.
Who had that in the pool?
5.
Yeah, that was a bit.
Was up 5-2 in the 9th. It gave up 4 runs to Alabama State. Much like yesterday, they got an 8th spot in the first inning.
Yeah.
In their game yesterday, and then around the 5th or 6th inning, Alabama State was able to put up 7th and then come back and get runs and just hold off Bethune-Cookman for the 9th. So while the games were close for the 2nd and 3rd game, Alabama State got a huge sweep of Bethune-Cookman. So that's going to be momentum in terms of they go forward. So it's going to be interesting. Jackson State get the final win over Alabama A&M after losing the first one. They get the next 2. So they take 2 out of 3 there. So it's going to go down to the end. So we just need to kind of look at this week to week to see what's going on here. But this is setting up for a huge race. But yeah, credit to Alabama State. You sweep at home in those type of games against Bethune-Cookman. But you talking about making a heck of a statement.
So now that brings up a 1-2 matchup next week, y'all, when Florida A&M travels to Alabama State. So
Alabama State just did this to Bethune at home.
Exactly.
So they just swept Bethune at home. So
and then now they have FAMU at home.
Yeah.
Next weekend. So i.e. Alabama State could really take control of the East this week.
Yeah.
With at least a 2 out of 3 against Florida A&M, because then they would own the tiebreakers against both teams.
That's right. This weekend is going to be another big one, and they just seem to get more important as they come down week to week, and I think that's what's going on. So I agree with you wholeheartedly the way you call that one, AD. If you're not getting into this baseball, that's just not your thing, because in terms of the competitiveness of these races, whether you're looking at the West or East Division, you should be into this kind of stuff, watching on it. And it's going to be fascinating to me. Will that game that Prairie View dropped yesterday come back and haunt them? That's a game where they were up after throwing up 5 in the 8th. It looked like they were going to control it with the 4-run lead. They could not hold on and actually had the 3rd out. To the Braves' credit, they scored all 4 runs to tie the game with 2 outs. But with that being played, the shortstop had a ball deep in the hole, turns and pivots and goes to first, and could not get enough air under it So it was a low throw, and the first baseman could not dig it out. And it gets away, and they're able to score a couple more runs. Then they had a ball played to the right fielder. He had to dive, had the ball right at the base of his glove. He could not hold on to it. It scores the 2 runs to tie it. And then in the 10th inning, the Braves put up 4 spot, and Prairie View could only answer 1 run. And so they lose that game. Alcorn is going to be interesting as they go down the stretch. Obviously, I think they're far out of it in terms of
Spoiler vote.
Or Alcorn, but both Pine Bluff and Alcorn can mess it up for some other teams, as they did in terms of getting a game from Prairie View. They got a game from Southern because they're game and they're playing a lot better. You also had the same with Texas Southern. As much as they can do on the hitting end, late as you get into their bullpen, which has been the case for several of teams in the SWAC, they'll give you some opportunities. And Pine Bluff was able to get one from Texas Southern this past weekend. So that Saturday game. So it's fascinating, again, what these matchups will look at going down the stretch. And then you're going to factor in that you're going to probably be looking at this in terms of percentage, because everybody's not going to necessarily be able to play their full set of games. The last 2 weekends we've had these rainouts.
Yeah.
So how is that going to play into it in terms of it may be advantageous for some teams that they were not able to play some of those rainouts and not as much for others, because you're going to be looking at percentage versus just the overall 30 games that the teams are scheduled to play.
Hey, Brian, can you put that graphic back up for a minute? I want to chime in on something what Doc just brought up, the Division I. Okay. We know that Bethune is two games short of Alabama State and Florida A&M due to the rainout. Florida A&M due to the rainout against Alabama A&M. And Doc, you may chime in on this. Would it be, does Bethune now, because they are trailing, kind of put it a priority to go out and make up those 2 games against Alabama A&M?
They have to make up those games?
They don't have to.
Make up those?
No, they don't have
No,
to.
because
it's
there's a minimum number of games that they usually have to play.
You have to
out
have
of
a
the
minimum
30.
number of games, which is like 70.
I think it's like 24 or something like that out of the 30.
It's a percentage. It's a percentage.
Yeah.
And they will likely make the percentage threshold. Now, the thing that you have to do is remember, it takes both teams to agree to play. And what comes in is going back to what we just talked about, it's a cost constraint. So is Bethune-Cookman going to want to take a trip back to Alabama A&M to play those 2 games? What I've seen happen in the past is a team will forfeit their home field advantage, and like if they play them on the second half again, they will play that, maybe instead of playing the 3-game series, they'll play a 4th one. But in this case, it's going to get more challenging because now you're talking about everybody in the second half of the season. So there is no return trip. So when do you do it? Do you do what Prairie View and Southern did last weekend?
Do a Tuesday or something?
Where Prairie View forfeited the home games and forfeited weekday games and decided to play at Southern. They got 2 games in. They were close, 1-run games, but they lost both of them. You would think at home they probably win those games. On the road, they lose. This past weekend, you had another opportunity for Southern. They got games rained out against Texas Southern. Texas Southern wanted to play them, my understanding, but there was some concerns by Southern to play those games because they wanted to have all their pitchers for Grambling this past weekend. So you got those kind of things going on. And to give you an update there, Grambling did defeat Southern today. So Grambling took 2 out of 3, which means they have 4 out of 2 in the overall 6-game series. So they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Southern if it comes out that way. And that was a blow to Southern at home to get 2 out of 3 taken from them from Grambling. So it's going to be interesting when you look at all these little pieces of the puzzle in terms of what they look like. And that score was 13-6, Grambling over Southern in that rubber matchup of today.
Hey, Doc, does the SWAC build a window where they have an opportunity to make up the games? Because I know, like in the SIAC, they used to have a window at the end of the season where you could possibly make up games if you needed to get to that minimum. Because when you look at a team like Southern and Texas Southern, who've had multiple rainouts this year, and Prairie View, if correct me if I'm wrong, who've had multiple rainouts, that may get down to the point where another bad weekend weather-wise may push them up under that minimum. Like I said, I think that minimum is 24. Don't quote me on that number, but I think it's somewhere around that number. 24 to 30 games must be played in order to qualify for the.
I think it's 24 but it's done by percentages. But I think you got 24 of them to get it in. No, the answer to your question is no, and the reason is when the conference expanded.
It took that extra week
used
out.
to be a bye week because you had 5 teams, and there was always a team that had a bye week, and so you could do some things maybe with that if they just fit it that way. But when they expanded and went to 6 teams, remember they had to add an extra week. So they used to have a week off, but they added an extra week, so they go right up into the tournament now. There is no week. And baseball is just really confined by when they have the season. When you start in NCAA tournament, remember they used to start the season a week earlier, but the teams in the North and to some degree the Midwest had major concerns about when the season would start because they had the weather issue about starting in February. So that was a condition of what they did. So the NCAA pushed the start of the season back a week, which really constrains in terms of the number of non-conference games you can play. And when you need to start your season. And so when they went to expansion, that pushed them back a week and actually pushed them up a week to make sure that they could get all the games in for 16 divisions to play everybody twice. 10 weeks.
Yeah. So you got to get creative with a Wednesday game or a Tuesday game if you're going to make it up at all.
That's it. To the credit of many of the coaches have really become weathermen. They focus on it early. You've seen a lot of cases where teams would do double headers. Like yesterday, they knew it was going to be raining in Houston today. So Pine Bluff and Texas Southern played 2 yesterday because they knew they wouldn't be able to get it in. Last week, you had some teams that tried to play games on Thursday. So they've been doing a lot to try to understand about getting them in. They push games back. They try to stay them later or they start them earlier. So they do a lot to try to get the games in, but Mother Nature is Mother Nature, and it's undefeated as we know, and it's just a challenge. And so in this case, I think it's just going to be percentage breakdown. The good thing is I think now basically the top 4 teams will get in regardless. You might say in the East there might be an argument in terms of Jackson State Valley and A&M fighting for that 4th seed. But basically the top 4 seeds are in. So the only thing you're talking about is a little differential in seeding. And if it's just your luck that you couldn't get the game in. At the end of the day, the tournament is so stacked that you're going to have to win your way through it. You can't cheat yourself through it based on some seeding and think you're going to get a championship in the SWAC baseball tournament. You're going to earn it. So for me, it's not a big deal.
Just quickly looking at the SWAC baseball schedule, there's four weekends left. Significant. The season's not over. So, I mean, most teams have about 12 conference games left. And so, yeah, each of these weekends are interesting. We'll might want to start taking a look at what schedules do look like. You know, I just happen to be looking at Bethune. Well, they've got a series with Florida A&M mixed in there, along with the series against Jackson State, a series with Alabama A&M, and then a series with Jackson State again. So they've got 2 matchups with Jackson State, the Alabama A&M series, and then the FAMU schedule. So
I just realized Alabama State and FAMU still have to play twice.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this was the first matchup this weekend. I thought they had already played. So
yeah,
that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, FAMU's got it. They got a chance if they can somehow find a way to win some games over Alabama State. You know, anything's possible. Won't try to handicap from where I'm sitting, but it'll be interesting to watch. So still plenty of baseball over on the Division I side, and like we mentioned earlier, the D2s and AIAs are coming towards the end of the regular season, about to head into conference play. So, all right, that we got to get at.
You asked me a question. What
what's
those
that?
two teams were at? West Virginia State is third in the Mountain East South. They have a 18-6 conference record. They trail Charleston, who is 21-3 in the East. In the South. And Talladega sits fourth in the Southern States Conference with a 12-6 conference record. Leading that conference is William Carey of Mississippi with a 17-4 record.
Good stuff.
All right. Final thoughts, Doc. Let people know any final words of wisdom you want to share. Any let people know where they can find you and all the plugs and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me at Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil. You can also, as Bryan said earlier, you can catch me on Tuesday and Thursday at Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We're on Facebook Live. You can catch us at your own pleasure. You can't catch it live on YouTube, and that's at BCSN or Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, whichever you like to get to. You can also catch us on Twitter in the space. What I wanted to close and just say, I want to say thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share some insights in terms of higher education, what it looks like. We joke, and obviously we're serious about what we talk about. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is inform and educate our populace and those that care to know and listen to us. So thank you for allowing me space and time to do that. I'm honored to be with you all on the show at any time. Obviously, love when you're able to join us on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab as guest professors. We take that seriously, and y'all bring a lot to the table. So kudos, continue to do the great work. I appreciate you.
We appreciate you, Doc. Drew, final words, thoughts?
Yeah, and I'm gonna stay the company line on this one. This week, coming up on the Black College Sports Network, we'll have the SIAC Track and Field Championship. So if you enjoyed our coverage of the volleyball championships Thursday and Friday, wait to see us do track. And then the following week, we have SIAC softball and baseball, and I will be in Albany, Georgia to handle that. But the one I'm looking forward to, and I'll meet you in the A, Doc, because I know you're going to be there for that SWAC baseball championship. So I know you're going to be there at some point in time. So don't know which day I'm coming up, but I'm going to definitely be up there in Atlanta for that SWAC baseball championship, my brother.
I don't have school that weekend. I'm finna be up there in Atlanta in the A watching some baseball. I'll be so happy to get away from school that weekend. If I could run up 75, I would, but I'm just gonna have to put my foot on the pedal and drive as fast as I can out of Orlando. After graduation, I'll be on the road to Atlanta to come see that. Hopefully the Rattlers are still playing. That's my hope. Again, got to thank Zach McKinnell, BlueBloodsCFB.com for joining us a little bit earlier. Want to remind you, next weekend, we're still hoping that we can put together our spring football review show with Jamie Walker, BJ Jones, Mo Carter, might even have a few other surprises. We're going to try to put a bow, or at least we're going to summarize what all we've seen and all that we have heard over the last month of spring practices. So that way you will have an opportunity to kind of salivate over your favorite school, your conference, your division, whatever you want to, and then kind of it'll be things that we'll be looking forward to in the summer, and it just adds to the conversation that we will have come July when we start football media days, and then of course in August when it's time to start practicing. So thank everybody on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, wherever you've watched us tonight. We want to thank you for taking time. Great conversation, great questions from you guys in the chat room. You can always look, hey, we always appreciate tips. If you're on YouTube, you always can drop a super chat or a tip as appreciation, or as you see on the scroll at the bottom, you can make a donation to the show, and it just helps us continue to do some things as we're looking to try to increase not only our viewership, but we're always just trying to increase what we do in this space. Please make sure to follow us on all of those social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1, the number 1. Go download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. MyJBN, MyBCSN, is where you can find it on the Google Play and Apple App Store. Make sure you're subscribed to us on Facebook, on YouTube. Hit the bell and notifications so that way, whenever we drop a show, whether it's our show, whether it's Dr. Cavil's show on Tuesdays and Thursdays, whether it's the O&G Strike Zone or the Carlos Brown show on Saturdays, you get the notification that the show is coming and that you'll be tuned in, ready to go. And as always, you can find all of these shows in podcast format on the BCSN Pod Zone. Everywhere you listen and download podcasts like Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Google and Apple Podcasts, and plenty more platforms, just go search BCSN Pod Zone. That's where you can find it, and it'd be appreciative if you would hit the rate and review button, share it. We need to get the algorithms up everywhere. So that's going to do it for tonight's show. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for hanging in there. Go share this show with somebody. If you missed any of our segments with Zach McKinnell, or if you missed the segment or part of the segment with Dr. Cavil, go back and catch it, and then make sure to share it with somebody. Enlighten somebody who needs to be enlightened. I think I said that right. So that's going to do it for tonight. Guys, appreciate you. So for Dr. Kenyatta Cavil and A.D. Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. Peace out, everybody. Be safe.
We'll holler.
But you stay on hard.